Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. I am Patrick Daugherty, joined by Denny Carter and Lawrence Jackson. It is draft week, so we've got some news related to the draft. We've got some prospect takes related to the draft from Mr. Lawrence. And we had Eric Froton join us last week, talk some of his favorite day two prospects. We had the Ringer's Danny Kelly join us to talk some of his favorite prospects. That's what Lawrence is going to do. He follows the draft very closely. Oh, yeah, we got some Will Levis rumors. We got some Anthony Richardson rumors. Bijan rumors. Jameson Williams, not rumors. He been suspended for gambling and really not cool. But, Denny, the biggest news of the week coming out of Tampa Bay, you informed me literally 10 seconds before the show began. Let's tell the audience about it.
Folks, listen, Peter King of NBC Sports reports in his column on Monday, which, of course, you can find on our site, that the Bucs are very unlikely to trade up to acquire a quarterback in the NFL draft this week because they are, quote, excited about coaching Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask at quarterback this year. I doubt that somehow. And as I was, writing that blurb, and I was thinking, oh, hey, wait a second. They're the same guy, Kyle Trask and Baker Mayfield.
Come on, man. There's been a lot of people losing libel lawsuits lately. Don't go out there saying there's no difference between Kyle Trask and Baker Mayfield.
I would actually say the good thing about Kyle Trask right now is we don't even know what he is yet.
Right.
Baker,
no, Lawrence, we do know he's bad. We know that part.
Well, we really know what Baker is.
That's true. Okay, that's the difference. That is the difference. We're fairly sure Kyle Trask is bad. We are completely sure that Baker Mayfield is bad. Very, very important difference. Yeah. You go, Denny.
I mean, what you have, though, are two quarterbacks who are totally immobile and have no arm strength. Both of them are dinkers and dunkers. Like that's what they do. And so they're going to alternate between these guys. And it's going to be a couple good games from not good games, a couple passable games from Baker. Then he's going to tank. Then they're going to bring in Trask. It's going to be a disaster. I mean, mostly what this means is the Bucs are all in on Caleb Williams next year.
So they're very, very excited about the 2024 quarterback class. That's really when you read between. Real quick, Lawrence, you've been known to rock some team apparel at some point. You're not wearing your Braves hat today. Are you okay?
What's the Braves record right now?
They're off to a pretty good start, I think. They demolished the Cardinals. That's all I know for sure.
The Cardinals is your team.
They are. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, Pat. We had to come in and get that W. Just switching it up for the day. But back when playoff baseball get back around, you'll never see me without anything but Atlanta Braves hats because I'm a fan then, baby.
So, yeah, the Braves have the third best record in the National League, by the way. And I was going to ask you, because I know you rock some team apparel from time to time, and the Bucs and the news on that regard, too, they've brought back the creamsicle unis for 2023, and I was wondering what your opinion was on the creamsicles.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's good. I do like their current uniforms. But these jerseys, they're very iconic. They was the jerseys that they were wearing when the Bucs first got Tony Dungy and Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks and those guys, and then they switched up to what they have now. So it'll be cool to see them go back for that, for that one game, for all the nostalgic people out there. It'll be cool to throw it back real quick, but I don't know if they could really rock with that if it was like a full season thing.
No.
But it's just the alternate, so it's all good.
Real quick, Denny, he said they were iconic, and Tom Brady, of course, wouldn't be caught dead in them.
He would have left the team.
That is why he
left. Yeah. I don't think he would like them.
That's why he retired last year, because he heard they were coming back, and then once they said they wouldn't, he came back for one final year. Sorry, Denny.
So I like this trend of teams going back to their 80s and early 90s looks, like the Eagles with the Kelly green, okay, which for a long time, back in the early 2000s was considered hideous, like the most hideous thing. But the Zoomers don't remember that at one point in sports history, not every team had to look post-apocalyptic. No. They could have a little color. The Dolphins wore bright teal sometimes teal pants and teal jerseys. Okay. The Bucks had the creamsicle. I'm trying to think of some other teams that had colorful. Anyway,
every team from the state of North Carolina just wore turquoise.
Right.
That was
right.
The Charlotte Hornets, Carolina Panthers, turquoise is the only allowed jersey color in the state of North Carolina.
Not every team looked like they were playing football in the Mad Max universe. Back then.
The Jaguars the Jaguars and Panthers when the both of those teams came out in 95, those jerseys back then was kind of like, oh, this is the new thing right now, so they've always kind of had different type of jerseys.
You guys hit on two different trends. In the 90s, every expansion team wore turquoise or purple, but every existing team turned their uniforms black. Like the New York Mets are like so famous for blue and orange, and for some reason they started wearing all black all the time. The Cincinnati Reds, who you would think would maybe have heavy red in their uniforms, started featuring heavily black. And that was like a trend. Like everything had to have black piping, everything had to have black trim. Like Denny said, basically just trying to be like
intimidating color. That's sending
the message that you could survive the Mad Max universe. You were not allowed. And then, but meanwhile, the expansion teams coming in, the Florida Marlins, like we wear bright green. And
they were the brightest turquoise in sports history, and I loved it. I was obsessed with it. I was a Marlins fan for that reason.
That's right. I'll tell this before we start the show. I'll tell you both of you guys because you won't know who it is because you don't like baseball, and the Zoomers have no chance. Google Charlie Huff.
I'm gonna know.
Google Charlie Huff. You don't know who Charlie Huff.
Okay, I don't know.
I don't know.
He was a 40-year-old knuckleballer who started, I believe, the first game in Marlins franchise history. So,
oh, really?
Google Charlie Huff. He's a blast from the past. Oh. Also a blast from the past, folks, is Will Levis because he's 100 years old. He's very, very old for a prospect. Will Levis is kind of getting like the most draft week steam since it appears Bryce Young is settled to the Carolina Panthers in number 1. So now the question moves, who's going to go number 2? Who's going to have the number 2 pick? And it seems like the sports producer Adam told us before the show, Will Levis is the favorite to be the number 2 pick, but he's also the favorite to be the number 4 pick. And that is where where the Indianapolis Colts, Denny, are selecting. ESPN's Todd McShay reports that the Colts' interest is, quote, very real in Will Levis. And I don't even know. I don't really have a question here other than just like asking you to comment on Will Levis and the Colts.
I mean, it seems like Levis is locked into the Colts. It looks like the Colts are going to do what it takes to land Levis. And part of their reasoning for valuing Levis, especially over Anthony Richardson, is that he's ready to start week 1. And that just seems so short-sighted to me. To say like, well, this guy can maybe help us immediately. Maybe is the key word there. So we're going to take him over the greatest quarterback athlete in the history of football.
As Kyle Dvorak keeps telling us, Derrick Henry in a quarterback's body.
And I'm going to have, when we talk about Anthony Richardson, I'm going to have more on him in a second, but I don't really get it, but they are apparently sold on Will Levis.
Lawrence, are you sold on Will Levis? We know we heard you talk a lot about Anthony Richardson. What about Will Levis? I mean, because there's some similarities. I mean, they probably get exaggerated, but like toolsy. I don't know. What are your feelings on Will Levis?
Will Levis is gonna be working with some tools in a couple of years in the construction site. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm not one of them. I appreciate these players and their athleticisms. I ain't one of them dudes who call football
athletic,
players.
Asphalt layer on the New Jersey Turnpike.
Yeah, whipping it up quick. Nah, I'm not one of the dudes who call these players Walmart workers because they're the 4th receiver on the team. I don't do that. But with Will Levis, am I sold on him? If you're asking it like that, then I would say nah. But every player has pros and cons to their game. We know his is having a strong arm, being a player with some experience. But there's questions about
experience.
Yeah, a lot of experience.
Some would say too much.
Yeah, he used to be the backup for Penn State. That player probably won't even get drafted, by the way. But anyway, now all of a sudden, the politics of it all. But then there's questions about, the accuracy or maybe decision making. But what we do know is he could throw a football, college football, on his knees 50 yards and hit the goalpost. We do know he could do that. As far as where he gonna get drafted, I still feel like we don't know anything when it gets to the number 2 pick. I think it's just a whole lot of hearsay and a whole lot of talking going on right now. Congratulations to Will Levis because he will be drafted somewhere. But I can't say that. I don't believe that the Texas, because it's kind of weird to me how he's favored to be the 2nd pick and he's favored to be the 4th pick. How you gonna be the favorite to get picked at 2 different spots in the draft? So are they saying, oh, if he don't go 2nd, well, now he's the favorite to be the 4th?
I think that must be what it is. It must be because the Colts are so in on him supposedly that it's better as kind of hedging. They're either going to trade up to number 2, or if they don't trade up to number 2, no one else wants him bad enough. So
Right.
2 and 3 are going to stay put, and he's going to fall to 4. It's very I don't really understand what the Texans are trying to accomplish. It's like they're trying to smoke screen themselves. You don't have to smoke screen. It's just you got the pick. We know who the number 1 pick is. And I really can't figure out what the Texans agenda, keep leaking that they're not going to take a quarterback. I guess they're just trying to, I guess it's pretty transparent. They want someone to take this pick from them very badly.
Right.
But they're going about it in a very, very strange way. Just say you're going to trade the pick. You don't even have to be secretive about it.
Producer Adam says the theory is that the Texans know that the Colts want Will Levis and don't want him to slide to a divisional rival. So
think of a pretty easy way to prevent that.
If I'm the Texans, I'm like, yeah, go have him.
Exactly. If you don't want him at number 2, who cares? Why would you care?
Have him? You don't think
he's good enough for the number 2 pick? So let your division rival take him.
Yeah, but I done watched this stuff long enough to know where when the time comes, man, I'm gonna just sit back and be ready to be shocked. There was a whole lot of talk around the 2021 NFL draft about the 49ers, moving all those picks to move up to number 3. The talk was Mac Jones, and then bam, out of nowhere to some, the pick is Trey Lance. So a lot of things can happen. The Bears traded up 1 pick to draft Mitchell Trubisky. We didn't see that coming either. That's scary, ain't it?
It is very scary.
So, if Will Levis knows anything, he don't want to be the number 2 pick, because the number 2 pick of the last 5 years is Zach Wilson, Mitchell Trubisky, Carson Wentz, Marcus Mariota, and RG3. Stay away from that number 2 pick, Will Levis.
Levis too. Well, I guess the one thing I've been focusing a lot on the negatives for Levis too, and that kind of shoddy mechanics, the classic big arm, but not very accurate. I kind of forgot until recently, redigesting his college story that he transferred to Kentucky, was really good under Liam Cohen, the offensive coordinator. Then he went to the Rams last year and is now back at Kentucky very mysteriously. And he lost his offensive coordinator. They lost Wan'Dale Robinson. He had no one to throw to. But I mean, then again, though, he's on a good SEC team. There was still okay talent around him. He's just a very, very fascinating prospect because of all the question marks, all the projectable upside. Also, though, the advanced age, which makes you less projectable. He's a very, very, very straight, a 5-year player, and everything about Will Levis was very unorthodox.
Yeah, and nothing really wrong with being a 5-year player. It's just that when you are that 5th-year player, what are you doing? Joe Burrow was a 5th-year player, but he threw 60 touchdowns in his last season. Hendon Hooker, another 5th-year player. He threw 58 touchdowns against 5 picks in the past 2 seasons. So it just depends on what you do in those 5 years. Then you look at a guy who we'll talk about in a little bit, Anthony Richardson. He hasn't played all that much football. So you know.
You would like him. You would have liked for him to beat out Sean Clifford, though. You would have liked that.
Yeah,
that
100%.
Would have been nice. Sean Clifford has superior stats in every way to Will Levis from 2022. I'm looking it up as we podcast because that's
one of those things where even it's a true fact, that's libel if you say that. You can't.
I know, man. I'm the First Amendment is on my side. Is on my side here. Look, Will Levis, 55th in adjusted, in average depth of target last year, 55th among college quarterbacks who took at least half their team snaps. Okay. He was 28th in adjusted completion rate, according to PFF. So, like, I know he can hit a field goal post from 50 yards on his knees, and I know he's jacked beyond belief, and he looks like Tim Tebow. You know,
ripped up, ripped up quarterback in history.
Exactly. That to me, that is a huge turnoff. I feel like he is like completely hands off because he's this big jack guy who can throw it from his knees. Who cares?
Remember, did Connor Rogers say Levis was too jacked? Or
if he did say that, he was correct. How many good quarterbacks you see who built like Terrell Owens? You gotta have a dad bod to be that type of quarterback, right? The only quarterback I think that I know that's been ripped and that's had any success was Cam Newton. In where, I mean, you know, he looking for a team right now as we speak. You know what I'm saying? So you too tight with all them muscles, man. Like you can't throw the ball right. You know what I'm saying? So
that is true.
I'm sorry, but
torn pectoral waiting to happen.
When we think about great quarterbacks in NFL history, are we thinking about guys who look like Will Levis? No, nobody looks like Will Levis. Like Cam Newton was absolutely jacked, but he wasn't that kind of jacked. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like his chest wasn't out to here. He didn't have like crippling like his back. He didn't look like a freak. Will Levis looks like a freak.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely looked like an NFL player.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
He looks like LaRon Landry, though.
LaRon. That's a good one to bring up right there. And he was too buff. He was too buff to just run. Period. I will say this. Today, I would definitely not take Sean Clifford over Will Levis. I wouldn't do that, but I would take guys like. You're going to think, look, I would take Stetson Bennett over Will Levis. I would take BYU quarterback Jaron Hall over Will Levis. Hendon Hooker. Hell, I would take Max Duggan, the TCU quarterback, over Will Levis today. Yeah, give me all of them guys. And there's probably another one. DTR out of UCLA. Give me him over Will Levis.
Will Levis's family,
but not Sean Clifford though.
Not Sean Clifford. Say Will Levis's family was considering a lawsuit until you said not Sean Clifford. So
I've never seen Sean Clifford play without getting hurt immediately.
It's not funny, but yeah, it is true. So we've talked a lot about Will Levis now. We've talked a lot about Anthony Richardson all spring, but he's kind of like the most fascinating prospect of the entire draft. Sports Illustrated's Albert Breer wouldn't rule out Monday morning the Seahawks taking Anthony Richardson at number 5 overall, even though they've got Geno Smith for like big guaranteed starting money in 2023. So this would be a situation where if Anthony Richardson ended up in Seattle, he would get like the fabled year to learn behind a starter. If he goes to Seattle, Lawrence, would Anthony Richardson even be draftable in 12-team leagues as a stash this year because the upside is so insane? Or if he goes to a team where he might actually start, who in the world are you taking above? Where are you taking him in drafts this year? This was Denny's framing, so I'm assuming Denny has some.
Regardless of how much I like what Anthony Richardson will be able to do in the league, if he gets drafted by the Seahawks, there's no way I would be drafting him in a 12-man redraft league. You would have to have a ridiculous number of roster spots to let him hold it, because we're not gonna sit here and wait. I think Geno got a pretty big leash. Like
Geno's got you are starting all 17 games unless you go off the rails.
He'd have to be hurt he have to be playing like extremely bad, which I don't see. He didn't lose anything on the offensive side of the ball. So if he's drafted by a team with a clear-cut quarterback, I can't imagine drafting him in a redraft league. If he's drafted to a team where he would play immediately, at that point, that's where I'll start looking at him late, because in that situation, let's say he goes to a Colts, right? Even if he doesn't start week 1 with the quarterbacks on their roster, he'll be starting by week 3. So it's so that in that situation, he'll be worth that, that late stash, kind of like how we were drafting Justin Fields in 2022, right? People weren't picking Justin Fields in the 7th and 8th round coming into 2022. They was getting them on the back end, and it paid off for him.
Real quick, before I ask you, Denny, trivia question. Is Matt Ryan still on the Colts roster or not?
He is not.
Yeah, he's not. He was cut. I don't know. That wasn't actually a very funny trivia question. He was cut March 14th.
I actually was only about half sure there.
Because it seemed like a trick question the way I was. Denny, so say he doesn't go to the Seahawks, where, again, if he goes to the Seahawks, he might sit like 2 years if he ended up in Seattle, depending on how things go with Geno. Yeah. But yeah, say he goes to somewhere with a much like the Colts.
I don't know.
Where do you, because like the upside would just be stratospheric, but the downside, of course, self-evident as well. For just a very inexperienced, Josh Norris made an interesting point, the former host of the show. Like, it's kind of incorrect to call Anthony Richardson raw. It's more that he's inexperienced. Like, he was making more like inexperienced mistakes because just hadn't played many games until last year.
That's right.
And so, like, maybe raw is not the right word for it. But Denny, where in the world would you take him if, say, he ends up in Indianapolis where it's clear he's going to make starts in 2023?
I would make sure that I don't leave any draft without Anthony Richardson at that point. And if that means I have to take him like well above ADP, then I'll do that, because there's no point. I feel like there's no point in being like, well, I'm going to see if he's there in a couple rounds, and I'm going to take this pocket passer who has no upside, who has maybe a nice floor, but like I'm going to take Kirk Cousins over
or Geno.
Come on. Yeah, or Geno. Right. Well, Geno has some rushing juice, but yeah, I mean, I completely all in on Richardson if he gets drafted by a team where he can start week 1. Now, I think the idea of the Seahawks taking Richardson and saying, all right, kid, you're going to sit back for a year or maybe 2 while Geno does his thing, that's not going to happen. That's not happening. I mean, Geno will have a long leash. Lawrence is right about that. They like Geno a lot. He earned, a long leash from his play last year. He led the league in completion rate over expected last year by like a significant margin. So he was good. But I think that that pressure will build eventually to say, hey, we got to get Richardson on the field. The Seahawks team, I don't think, is good enough to be like, we're just going to roll with Geno for the next year. Now, in that case, and if he goes to Seattle, if Richardson goes to Seattle, and it's clear that Geno is going to be the week 1 starter, I think
he will. He's paid too much money. He will be the week 1 starter.
Yeah, he 100% there. Yeah,
sure. But I do think that there is an argument in 12-team leagues, kind of depending on bench size and whatever, to just stash Richardson, because I mean, what else are you going to use that spot on? A running back who might fall into 12 carries at some point.
They're using Adam Thielen.
Right. I mean, you gotta maximize your bench, and Richardson really strikes me as the kind of fantasy producer who just won't be available in most leagues by the time he gets the call to start.
That is a compelling argument, but I do the Seahawks galaxy brain essentially every first round pick they make. I think they would very much take him and be super genuine about sitting him all year and actually just do that. And like where they would be like Pete Carroll, probably like a big believer in like the Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes model, or the Jordan Love. Jordan Love's been in the league 12 years and is finally going to start in 2024 or 2023, Denny. I think they really believe. I think they would be serious and like they would stick with Geno no matter what. I do actually believe that. So
I do have a couple stats, some numbers on Anthony Richardson I'd like to share with the group here and see what you guys think. These come actually from our former colleague, Pat Crane. Check out his site, Legendary Upside, really good. Sign up for his newsletter. He has all the goods there. So he mentioned that, Richardson is not like there's this kind of lazy comp where Richardson is this year's Malik Willis. In no way is Richardson like Malik Willis, and a big difference is that Malik Willis was one of the worst quarterback draft prospects ever in avoiding sacks. Okay. Whereas Anthony Richardson is one of the best ever at avoiding sacks. That is a huge factor in how these quarterbacks are evaluated. So there's that. There's also Anthony Richardson's what is it called? It's called a big time throw rate. Okay, folks. This is defined by Pro Football Focus as a pass with excellent ball location and timing, generally thrown further down the field and or into a tight window. Now, Anthony Richardson's big time throw rate is in line with Stroud and Bryce Young. It's higher than Cam Newton's was coming into college. It's higher than Deshaun Watson's was coming into college. So there is a ton of passing potential here in Anthony Richardson. And I think that like dismissing that and saying, oh, well, he needs 2 years on the bench to learn how to pass the ball. That's not true.
No, it's definitely not true. You would most of the things we do in life, how do we learn it? By doing it.
Right.
Speak for yourself. I learned, I watched older kids than me play FIFA for 5 years before I ever picked up the sticks.
Yeah, see, I couldn't have learned how to play FIFA like that. I had to get in there and hit those through balls myself.
Exactly. I was lying. I've been through balling since I was 6 years old. Just one. I will never just quote hit X and quote make a normal pass.
You cannot just hit X, man. Can't do it.
I will never just make a normal pass. I will always through the ball.
Sure.
SI's Albert Beer again. Hey, a very newsworthy Monday morning. Albert Breer reported Bijan Robinson has, quote, consistently been connected to the Falcons. Lawrence, even with Tyler Algier there, would this be a great landing spot for Bijan on your Falcons? Well, how would you feel about this?
Yeah. I mean, if any team that get Bijan Robinson, you're gonna say we love it, right? If he goes to the Falcons at number 8, which is where you're gonna have to get a player like him, it just shows you what the Falcons are trying to do, and they're showing you what they feel essentially about Tyler Algier, right? 5th round pick coming out last year, started out as a backup. And if they made that move to Bijan Robinson, that'll clearly send him back to being a backup. And there's really no other way to it. Would I like to see them make a different pick than that? Sure. But like no fan of any team is going to be pissed off that their team picked up Bijan Robinson.
That is the thing. Even though it's not like the EPA pick, whatever you need to make, you will never be like sad about Bijan being on your team. I mean, it's weird though. Like it's the classic NFL mistake. I think Bijan should be taken in the top 20. I do think if you hit on like a day 3 running back who looks really good, maybe the next year you shouldn't take a day 1 running back. And like we've seen this happen. We saw this happen with the Jaguars and James Robinson and Travis Etienne. Maybe just let someone else do that. But I mean, would it be a concern for Bijan's fantasy prospects in 2023 ending up in Atlanta where it's not like Tyler Algier will just disappear, I'm assuming?
So Tyler Algier was 7th in yards after contact per carry last year, just behind Derrick Henry. Tyler Algier was very good. On only 210 carries, he eclipsed 1,000 yards. He fits the offensive scheme. He fits the pound and ground sort of ethos that Arthur Smith wants to focus on, wants to teach. So that all lines up. But honestly, Bijan Robinson goes to Atlanta. I don't think there's any worry about Tyler Algier stealing valuable. I think that I think Bijan. I said this on Twitter today, so I obviously have to double down here. If Bijan goes to the Falcons, I think that there is a pretty valid argument for him going number 1 overall in fantasy drafts.
I mean, it's not like they're gonna throw the ball or anything. You know what I'm saying? And if they do, won't be the Kyle Pitts, so it'll be the Bijan.
Come on, man.
Right. So he'll get all the checkdowns when they have to throw, which is they rarely do. He'll get all the carries. He'll get all the high value touches, the stuff inside the 10. I mean, I think it's like as you would say, Pat, stratospheric, his ceiling in Arthur Smith's offense.
It is weird. It's not like it will be a 2-back backfield still, but the carry floor is so high in this offense that it wouldn't matter at all. And the 2-back backfield would be stretching it. 2 backs would be involved, maybe 3. I guess for Cordero, but it wouldn't. It's this kind of offense where Bijan would be able to withstand that. So we got to get to Lawrence's favorite prospects. But real quick, Jameson Williams, came back from a major injury as a rookie, didn't get to do a ton down the stretch. Now he's suspended 6 games for using DraftKings or something. Is he becoming like a toxic dynasty league asset? Are we still bullish on James? Is it time to like cut a sunk cost with Jameson Williams, or is it time to buy low with Jameson Williams, Denny Carter?
Man, the history of a guy missing basically his whole first season and then getting suspended for almost the first half of his second season can't be good. If you're looking for historical comps, I'm guessing those historical comps will be pretty grim. Saying that, if the team is committed to having him integrated into the offense, they need him. Like they gotta have that downfield burner. They don't have that without him. And he adds, and I wrote about this on the site the other day, he adds an element to the offense that they simply didn't have last year. And that would be fantastic for Amon-Ra St. Brown, for Jared Goff, for this like very aggressive Dan Campbell led offense. So I do think that if they're committed, I think that Jameson Williams could be okay. But boy, it's an ugly start.
Cutting bait or buying low, Lawrence?
Well, I would be closer to buying low than cutting bait altogether. Just still way too early. And it's a good thing that it's only 6 games as opposed to the whole year, which gambling god Calvin Ridley received last season.
So I know that is. I wonder what the difference between JMO's and Calvin Ridley's bets were. Because
he probably didn't hit on his parlay.
The thing is, Jameson lost. Calvin Ridley, I think, famously also did not hit.
So I think it actually matters just for technical purposes. If folks are wondering, because my dad called, well, what's going on with these guys gambling? If you gamble at a team facility, then you get the hammer. And I think that Jameson.
Well, you can't gamble in the NFL. Apparently, JMO was gambling on college football, which I don't quite know why that's not allowed. I haven't seen the NFL promote gambling at all.
No,
never.
Okay, was it a team?
We never talk about it on NBC Sports Edge either.
No, the NFL has not wholeheartedly embraced gambling. So
not at all.
Anyways, we'll be right back after this to talk some of Lawrence Jackson's favorite 2023 NFL draft prospects. Every season is draft season. Get your Rotoworld Draft Guide bundle today and dominate your football, baseball, and basketball drafts. It's packed with profiles, rankings, and projections. Order today and get all 3 Rotoworld Draft Guides for the price of 2. Plus, use promo code BARRY and save an extra 20% off at checkout. That's promo code BERRY to get an extra 20% off at checkout. And don't forget, download the Rotoworld app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster. Get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. It is available in your app store today. Lawrence, we haven't timed the podcast particularly well. You have to leave to get your daughter soon.
It's all good.
You got some time to talk about your favorite prospects in this year's draft. You got some running backs. You got some receivers. You even have a tight end. Let's start with one of your favorite running backs. In this
And so, like we know, right, we all expect players like Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jackson Smith-Njigba. We're expecting them to provide us with fantasy value right out the gate, right? But what about guys like Tyler Algier, a day 3 guy, Dameon Pierce, a day 3 guy, Isaiah Pacheco, a day 3. So these guys are out and about, and they will have roles at some point. So one of the first guys I want to talk about is Mr. Small Almighty, Deuce Vaughn, running back out of Kansas State. Dude is one of my favorites, standing at a enormous 5'5", 179 pounds. But I promise you this, That man does not run like that. He was a true freshman and was already the best player on their offense. Super productive player, 116 catches over the last 3 seasons at Kansas State. And while he's not of the stature of guys like Tyler Algier, Damian Pierce, and Isaiah Pacheco, I compare him more to players like James White and Darren Sproles and Tariq Cohen, players that we've started in. It used to be Austin Eckler too in the Melvin Gordon days. All of these guys had roles in their offense, and with a skill set like Deuce McAllister has, he'll be able to. I'm sorry, not Deuce Vaughn.
Lawrence just dated himself.
Deuce McAllister ain't 5'5", 179.
No.
Yeah. So the fact that Deuce Vaughn can do that, I can't. This guy's not even a Hall of Famer, but shout out to Deuce McAllister.
Shout out to Deuce.
Deuce Vaughn, he can do all the things that an every down back can do. So even if he's not gonna do that at the next level, he could complement a player who does, and he'll find his role in the receiving game. Same goes for Devon Achane out of Texas A&M. Little bit bigger, 5'9", 188. Similar skill set, except Devon Achane does not run like a man who's sub 190 pounds. Like he's elusive, he's quick, but he will deliver the blow as well. He's a tackle breaker, and obviously All-American, world-class speed on the track. We love that, right? He'll bring it in the kick return game as well. So I like those two dudes as smaller backs.
Lawrence, real quick, we've had a few people mention Devon Achane on the show. I'm really glad you mentioned Deuce Vaughn, who no one has mentioned yet, who was one of the probably 3 or 4 most fun players to watch in college.
Oh, yeah.
And like just totally blew up the box score. Like back-to-back years just blew it up. Like on all 3 downs, and 5'5" is very small. But like you said, we've seen it with his fellow K-State alum, Darren Sproles, and we've seen it with Tariq Cohen, who got short-circuited by injuries. So it's not like we have there's a prototype for these players having success in the pros.
Yeah.
Deuce Vaughn is a very, very, very fascinating prospect.
And he's a player, on the tape, it literally shows he can line up in the slot and eat your linebackers alive. Like, it's a complete mismatch there. For a dude who has more ideal size, you got Izzy Abikanda.
Better you than me.
Yeah. I should have just said his name instead of trying to read it.
Yeah, you gotta. The key with names where you're not great on pronunciation, you just say it as fast as possible. That's literally
the first time I ever messed up his name, and it's because I tried to read it. But anyway, this is a guy, 5'11", 215. Probably will go at the end of day 2, possibly day 3. Extremely good acceleration. Not shifty, not gonna juke you everywhere, but he's gonna use his speed and acceleration to beat the defender. So those are 3 running backs that I like. That's probably definitely not going on day 1. Maybe they'll go on day 2. Some will more than likely go on day 3. And those are dudes who could just come in. Like, if they get on a team like a Kansas City Chiefs, remember, they didn't bring back Jared McKinnon as of yet. So that's a spot where a guy like Deuce Vaughn could come in and have himself a little role. And running backs are important, right? Because that's the spot where rookies have the most impact. Not so much at the receiver position. So I won't talk about too many of those guys. But
Denny, you have any thoughts on any of these guys real quick?
I want to be in on Deuce Vaughn because the production.
Have you ever seen Deuce Vaughn play? I know you've seen the spreadsheets on him.
Okay, I have. My college DFS dabblings. I definitely saw Vaughn play, and his production is out of this world. Okay,
it is out of this world.
I concede that.
In big games too. Like, he was like the classic. Like, he shined in big games at K-State.
I will say that I am a little bit worried about how a 177-pound running back is going to hold up. I was thinking like, as far as like comps go, I was like, wait, does Doug Martin comp to him? Doug Martin was 5'9", 230.
Yeah, so Doug Martin was way over 2 bills.
But guess what though? Doug Martin was always hurt.
It's true. Yeah, he needed to be smaller.
I don't know. I want him. I want him to be a thing. I could see like Lauren said, I could see him being used as a pass catcher around the line of scrimmage, but I don't know if there's like much fantasy upside there for him.
Yeah, well, if there's not he's gonna have to like be nurtured into the correct role by like a good coaching staff. Where I could definitely see Deuce Vaughn becoming a PPR factor at some point in his career, maybe even in 2023. But it seems like maybe he's gonna. Tariq Cohen, I think, kind of made some noise right off the bat. He's a classic. Yeah. Let's let Deuce Vaughn end up with a good coaching staff, God willing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lawrence, sure. Who do you want to talk about next, Lawrence?
Yeah, and just a quick note on 2 other running backs. I won't go in on them, but Keaton Mitchell out of East Carolina and Xavier Holiday out of Arizona State, where Rashad White just came from. But a couple of receivers here. We like slot receivers in fantasy. Josh Downs and Jaden Reed are certainly a couple of those guys. Both of them are small in stature, right?
Small. Lawrence, what is the deal with this class, man? Like these guys would have all been like they would have not looked out of place on the Rotoworld flag football team in Canton, Ohio last year. They're all like 5'9", 170.
No, and I'm certain Denny would not have thrown the ball to Josh Downs. He wouldn't have thrown the ball to Josh Downs either, because he would have just been too wide open for him.
Yeah, Josh Downs would have been out the back of the end zone.
Josh Downs out of, and that's what I like about Josh Downs. He's able to get open in those zone coverages more quicker than fast, even though he's 5'10", 175. He don't run a 4.3. He's closer to a 4.5. But he looks like he runs fast on film when he's eating up those zone coverages. The same deal could be said with a guy like Jaden Reed out of Michigan State. Just finds his spots in the zones. And if any of these guys get picked in the, 4th round or so, then look for them to compete for some reps, as well as Xavier Hutchinson out of Ohio State. He's a bigger receiver, 6'2", 205, but the special thing about him is he can play big and he could play small. Played 26% of his snaps in the slot, but he's more known as an X receiver, makes the acrobatic catches, and there's some things I compare him to Cooper Kupp with. He's an older receiver, older 5th-year receiver who should probably get picked in the middle rounds and was productive right off the bat. They could move him around. So I like those 3 players right there.
Oh, you're on mute, Pat. You're on mute.
Sorry, excuse me. I was on mute. If you're watching on YouTube, on audio, it'll be edited out. So you have no idea. But Lawrence, you're going deeper than anyone we've had on the show so far. Even Mr. Eric Froton is helping us with our pre-draft profiles. We're going to have amazing write-ups for all these guys on draft weekend. So you get a lot more stuff like Lawrence is coming with right now. But Lawrence, as you're talking about Josh Downs, it's more like I read about Josh Downs, 5'9", slot-only prospect who runs like a 4.5 instead of a 4.4. Mm-hmm. What you're basically saying is that he's already on the New England Patriots. He's already
I don't know if I love him as much as if he went to that team, because their offense has to show me they can actually do something first.
Well, I don't know if you've heard, Lawrence. High and mighty, they hired an offensive coordinator this year.
Woo!
So, they have an actual offensive coordinator. So, before you judge the Patriots, maybe you should learn the facts.
I got to learn the facts.
They've hired an actual offensive coordinator.
The biggest fact is their quarterback ain't Tom Brady.
Hey, you guys were saying you don't like quarterbacks being all rocked up, and then now all of a sudden you don't like Mac Jones. The earliest quarterback in the league. Although actually apparently
he got a perfect quarterback body, so I don't know what gives.
Yeah,
we'll give him another chance with a real offensive coach. So we'll see what happens. But Josh Downs, don't get drafted to the Patriots, man.
I think supposedly Mac is rocked up, by the way, now. Sorry, Denny.
We had a report this morning from Peter King. It's on our site that the Bills are interested in Josh Downs and could take him in the first round. According to Peter King.
Wait,
So
what? They said that? Who said that?
First
Peter
round?
King. Peter
Oh,
King.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mm.
the Bills, man, they need receiver help like really bad, and they're like obsessed with that archetype of receiver, and like kind of keep striking out on it. Like even Isaiah McKenzie, was kind of a strikeout last year. I forget what team is Isaiah McKenzie on now, by the way.
Colts.
I can't remember. He's not in Buffalo anymore, but they really need receiver help. That would be kind of a shocking first round pick. I know Josh Downs is kind of all over draft boards. I do know that.
Yeah.
Some people have got him really high. Some people have got him more like low day 2. So he will be a really, really fascinating prospect.
McKenzie plays for the Colts.
Okay, all right. So
Will
Levis, that'd be the best weapon Will Levis has had in like 2 years.
But again, they're wide receiver rookies. Like we had Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. That was the extent of rookie wide receivers that we was willing to start every week. So it'll be tough for any rookie receiver to get in there and be exceptional off the bat. That's why I only talk about one tight end, because again, rookie tight ends don't usually come in and get 1,000 yards like Kyle Pitts does. You know what I'm saying?
That's 1,000 yards for his career yet?
Just over that. But like last season, we didn't know what to do at the tight end position outside of Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews. Even he started falling off a bit. But we had guys like Cade Ott and Greg Dulcich, Isaiah Likely that we were talking about and switching them out every week. And then you got Che Okongwu. Got that name right there. I didn't really read it. That's why. So
you power through.
He was the best rookie tight end from a fantasy standpoint. Sam LaPorta out of Iowa State is like the big Chig. You know what I'm saying? He's that type of player. He's more of an H-back, a guy you move around. He's what Jonnu Smith is supposed to be. That's what he was supposed to be on the Patriots. So Sam LaPorta, look out for that name outside of the obvious guys like Dalton Kincaid and Michael Mayer.
That's another, because everyone's talking about like the top of this amazing tight end class. It's interesting to go a little further
pretty deep.
Down.
It's deep.
It is crazy. Like people are, it wasn't hype. Like it is like genuinely a really deep tight end class, which maybe it's this thing about the overall draft class, which we're hearing is not very good. We're probably not a great sign of one of the really deep positions is tight end, but it is one of the really deep positions this year, Denny.
It is. By the way, there are several tight ends, including LaPorta, who, and not Michael Mayer, who really excel at after the catch ability and speed, which are two enormous factors in tight end production especially over the past decade. So I do think that there is a chance that eventually, maybe this year, we get past the idea and the reality that rookie tight ends don't produce in fantasy. Here's to hoping.
Would be really nice, because it's a position that needs a talent infusion.
Yes.
Very, very badly. Tyler Higbee, one of the worst overall players in the league, was like the tight end 2 overall last year.
I don't even know, man.
When's Tyler Higbee going to be working on highways?
Never. That guy's going to be in the league forever.
And it's only going to be on the Rams. But
it's true. He's like the franchise player.
I guarantee you this: week 3, he's gonna have 9 catches for 91 yards and 2 touchdowns, and that's it.
That's a wrap for the whole season.
And I'm gonna have to write 400 words on him.
You will. You've already. Well, that's evergreen for you, Denny. You've already got that one on file. You just change out the week and the year. And
I do. You're right.
That's on just evergreen for Denny Carter. Wow. Lauren, I was worried we weren't going to be able to get to all your players. Sorry, anything you didn't get to say on Keaton Mitchell or Xavier Valade that you wanted to get out there?
Xavier Valade, man, he's the one that has you could almost think of him in the same breath as Rachaad White. We think of some of the things like he has the tools to do everything that you need in the back. He's underrated in the pass catching game. So for a guy like him, this is probably a day 3 running back we're talking about right here, but definitely gives the effort in pass pro, and you need that as a rookie to stay on the field. But at 5'11", 200, He's a guy that could give you it in every phase, run, pass, and pass pro. And then Keaton Mitchell is a guy who could potentially, I don't know, a lot of people don't use kick return points in fantasy, but he's another guy who could fall into a role. He's got experience catching the ball out of the backfield. The acceleration speed on him, again, is legit. His 4.3 is not just the combine 4.3. That's like a football field outrunning angles type of 4.3.
Right.
That's what you get in Keaton Mitchell. But again, he's 5'8", 180. So that's going to knock him down the boards a little bit. But again, get him with a good coach and a good system. He should find himself a role.
Keaton Mitchell, 50 runs of more than 10 yards last year, led all of college football. That's a lot of runs of 10 yards.
Yeah, it's an insane stat. Final question, Lawrence. This seems like a more intriguing running back class than last year. Like, I just feel like there's kind of more like intriguing, kind of like wild card names out there. Is it a better running back class? I guess it's a better running back class than last year, just by the sheer virtue of Bijan Robinson being in it. But this feels like a very fun draft running back class.
And it's a good running back class too, because in my point of view, the gap between him and Jahmyr Gibbs ain't big at all. In fact, there's teams.
Don't say it.
There's teams, right, that I would rather see have Jahmyr Gibbs than have Bijan. Like, if you're the Dolphins, I'd rather have Jahmyr Gibbs than Bijan Robinson. If you're the Chiefs, I'd rather have Jahmyr Gibbs than Bijan Robinson. Like, he's gonna do work. He's 199 pounds, so people like to call him sub 200. Like, okay, the dude could play, and he wasn't even utilized to his full potential at Alabama. So there you go, man. So yeah, those two players definitely make this running back class more stacked than what we think. And you're gonna get a lot of these smaller running backs that they're the ones who's gonna make this the running back draft class better. It's gonna be some of those guys we talked about earlier.
We need our college football prospects to start eating fast food again, man. All these guys are like 175.
Nah, you don't want that, because then they just gonna be small dudes with guts.
Well, that's true. I don't know. Yeah, that's true. But like, man, yeah, like college athletes used to eat fast food. Now it's all like these scientific diets. Now,
yeah,
like
right.
Like Hardee's exists, or Carl's Jr. as it's known.
Bro, they had a Hardee's on my college campus. we was hitting that up. They had the little $5 deal, get 2 burgers. We was on that heavy.
We had a 24-hour Subway, and this was before people knew Subway. I mean, Subway's a fine establishment, but it was a 24-hour Subway, and that was like revolutionary back then. I would say it'd be a little less revolutionary to me now than it was then. But the fine folks at Subway. We also had a McDonald's.
There was a Hardee's in College Park, Maryland that I frequented. Always sober, by the way.
Of course. Hardee's is famous for its extremely sober clientele. Just like, of course, Taco Bell, who has never once served an inebriated customer.
Run right through you.
Really, really great. Oh, no. Come on.
Like a running back.
Oh, boy. Yeah, really, really great stuff to Lawrence. We went deep on the class. Again, we've talked a lot of the bigger names of the show. I'm really glad to get some of these names out there today.
Yeah, man. Watch for the teams that some of these players go to, and it'll be interesting.
Really, really great stuff. We're going to have all these guys written up this weekend for draft weekend. It's going to be a long weekend. Lawrence, really, this is your first draft for us where you're going to be blurbing, right?
Yeah, because last year I went to Vegas, so I avoided that last year.
And you were brand new. You were new to the blurb game. Yeah. Unfortunately for you, you are trained up this year.
Yeah, man. So we'll be,
it's a hell of a time.
I'm stretching my finger. I'm getting ready. I'm ready to go, man.
Yeah, you already have carpal tunnel syndrome this weekend. But really, really good stuff. So for Lawrence Jackson, for Denny Carter, I'm Patrick Daugherty. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back on Wednesday to put a bow on our pre-draft coverage, and then we'll be blurbing up the whole thing later this week on NBC Sports Edge /Rotoworld.